Hey guys, welcome to a very special Valentine's Day video on the GamerZakh channel. Now, I'm not going to do some sappy love game playthrough or anything, but I do want to talk about gaming as a pastime from the perspective of females, or what's popularly titled the gamer girl. With me here today is someone very special to me, and rather than me speculate what goes through the female mind, we can just ask one directly. So, say hi.
Hello.
Alright, now I have a set of questions, but this is going to be pretty casual as we're just doing this for fun. So let's get started. First up, some statistics, and I'd like your opinion on some of these. So, the average gamer is 30 years old.
Okay.
Around 45% of the gamer population as of 2013 is female.
Great.
In 1989, 25 years ago, females constituted only 3% of the gaming industry. In 2013, that number has gone up to 12%, not a massive increase.
But it's still an increase, so...
Yeah, but
Hooray!
25 years, that's kind of a large time gap. Well, we'll try keep these statistics in mind as we talk about the topic. Now, let's get to know you a little bit better. How did you get into gaming, and what games are your favorites?
Well, as a kid, I've always liked puzzles. And I think my dad kind of acknowledged that, so he got me, like, really weird, those fake laptops that you buy, for children and stuff. And then I remembered getting a PlayStation 1, I think when I was around 8 or 9. And around the same time, I got myself a Game Boy. I actually had to pay for it myself because my mom wouldn't let me get one any other way. So, yeah, and it started from there, basically. I'm not much of a PC gamer, I gotta be honest. I'm more of a console gamer. And my favorite games on the Game Boy would definitely have to be Pokemon.
Of course, Pokemon.
Yeah, but I think I never finished it because I got lost in that cave thing before you actually get to the Elite Four. So that was kind of meh. Some games that I've grown to like over the years. One of my favorite earlier games on the PS1 was Crash Bandicoot.
Of course,
yeah,
yes.
Klonoa, and then I got a PS2 when I was around 15 or so. And from there, some of my favorite games from then would have to be Okami. I love
Yeah.
Okami.
Okami's great.
Yeah, Sly Cooper. My favorite game of all time would probably have to be Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Yes.
I love CJ to death. What else? Recently I've grown an affinity for Assassin's Creed.
Thanks to me, I got the game.
Yes, thank you. GTA 5 was great. What other games do I like? Oh, I like a lot of fighting games as well, like Tekken, or like I remember Marvel vs. Capcom was one of the first games I got on the PS1. And I also like the which one was the one with DC Comics? I think it was like Mortal Kombat or something, right?
It was Mortal Kombat versus DC.
Yeah, we were playing Joker,
Yeah, Joker's the best.
yeah.
So in general, you've been a gamer since really early on. So you grew up with gaming. So that's not always common with girls. I mean, do you know a lot of girls who grew up like that with PlayStations, Game Boys, and all of that?
Well, when I was growing up, I was always talking with the boys about games. You know, like I would remember trading my Pokemon cards with my guy friends, and I couldn't do that with girls, and it was so rare. But nowadays, more girls are playing games. Like a bunch of my colleagues are actually gamer girls themselves, and I found more when I was in college. So maybe I wasn't mixing with the right people when I was growing up, but I personally know more of them now.
Right. Now, before we move on to the other questions, since we've gone through the games that you like, what games do you hate? That you can't stand?
Any games that you like?
Yes, we do have very different taste in games. Not many cross the boundaries.
No. Like, Sly Cooper was Sly Cooper actually brought us together, so
Sly Cooper was fun.
yeah. I do not like strategy games because I do not have the patience for that. I'm a very impatient gamer. I'm a
Yeah.
very impatient person, honestly.
You would rage with StarCraft 2. Seriously, if you laddered, it would just.
I think I would rage without StarCraft 2 fine. Okay? So yeah, I don't like strategy games. I hate FPS because it gives me major headaches every time I can't play it.
That's a normal thing. A lot of people get headaches with first-person shooters, so that's not really that you don't like the game. It's just you can't stand it.
No, I just don't like it. It's
And
stupid.
you don't like it. And you don't like it. I mean, they're not all stupid. I mean, some are nice.
Well, okay, fine. When I first got exposed to FPSs, it's like, what is this gun floating around my screen?
It was the early Counter-Strike days,
and
right?
I was just like, no, this ain't for me. This is not for me.
Okay, well, that's fine. Every gamer plays the games they like. Why would you play anything else? So, now, despite significant growth of, there's a lot more girls in the gaming scene, as you mentioned before, but it still seems like girls think it's kind of a boys' realm. Even when the girls play games, they still kind of leave the boys to do the gaming thing, and then girls just kind of play on the side. So I'm a teacher, as everyone knows, and I have some girls in the high school, and they say things like, I don't like any kind of video game at all. They just blanket statement, I do not play games. It is not for me. And I feel like that's saying I don't like movies. I mean, everyone has a movie they like. So, it's from a female perspective, what do you think girls and females in general, who are the younger generation, think about gaming? What's your take on them? What's the vibe you're getting from them?
I think they don't know what video games are. And I think it's also because of the people they grew up with. Like, it's not uncommon, I guess, to see parents like, oh, video games are stupid and stuff like that. You know, they would actually say those things, and they would kind of say that it's pointless and whatnot. And it kind of sucks that like at least half of the world's media still says that video games are stupid. I mean, that's why we have the whole debate like, oh, video games will let you, make you kill people and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's because video games have a very negative connotation. What perspective? What?
Well, yeah.
So I think that's the reason why they just say like, oh, I don't like video games at all. But actually they don't really know what they are. Because I know you've told me that you've actually tried introducing your female students, to certain kinds of games, right?
Yeah.
And then they like it, right? Well, some of them do, but it's because they didn't know what it was in the first place. So I think the reason why not a lot of girls actually get into gaming is because they don't know anything about it.
Right. That does make sense. But why do you think boys just kind of pick it? Maybe boys go out of the way to pick it up?
Well, here's the thing. From what I'm getting is that if you, for the people who don't like video games, they always have the impression that video games are very childish. And to generalize things again, a lot of people tend to associate being childish with boys. Because boys don't want to grow up, the whole Peter Pan syndrome thing, whereas girls do. So I think that's why it's easier for guys to get into games, and then people just let them be because it's expected of them to do so. Whereas girls are like, oh, you're supposed to be responsible and whatnot, so don't get into gaming. You're gonna waste your life away.
Right. So it's kind of become this social bias towards.
It is. It's like why guys wear blue and girls wear pink.
Well, yes, I suppose that is kind of a problem because gaming is awesome.
Yes, it is.
Now, how about the point that people bring up where they say girls don't really get into games because they don't really find games that they like. Like in the mainstream, the big kind of mega titles and the mega genres of gaming do not really cater towards females. Like just besides content and theme, just in terms of how many females are represented in games, especially just looking at the protagonist in most stories, it's always a guy, whether it's Assassin's Creed, God of War, it's most of the time a guy. So do you think that's like a turnoff for girls? Like they don't see strong female characters?
I think it is, because one of the earliest games to have a chick as the main character was Lara Croft.
Right, yeah.
And how big were her boobs? Okay,
I forgot the original size was like double D or something.
I don't know, way too massive to be running around the cave without.
They have had breast reduction surgery on the more recent games.
Yeah. So I think it's because the same kind of, I think it applies, the same kind of biasness that you see in movies also applies to games, because the main people who are making games and movies are mainly guys, and sad to say, most of them still see women as sexual objects. You know, I don't want to I don't want to say that as a fact, but it's kind of hard to ignore. Most of the girls that you do see in gaming are usually very skimpily dressed. They're always ridiculously pretty, and it's just not relatable, you know? And okay, let's look at the kinds of movies that we see nowadays. Like, okay, fine. Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games, right? Okay, I didn't read the books, but based on what Jennifer Lawrence is doing in the movies, it's refreshing to see her because she's a lot more relatable.
Right, yeah.
You know, because not a lot was emphasized like on her beauty. A lot of it was more emphasized on the emphasis was on her strength. The fact that she could carry on despite a bunch of terrible things happening to her. And if more games had those kind of characters where it wasn't just about them being pretty at all. Actually, you know what? Don't mention the fact that they're pretty at all. If they are, great, but if they're not, you don't have to mention that they're pretty.
Just don't make it an issue.
Yeah, just don't make it an issue.
Well, moving on from that a little bit, one thing I was reading that it wasn't so much that if we made we make games with male characters, and girls generally still are kind of okay with buying that. One point was raised that if we make games with female protagonists, that the guys won't buy it. And that's why many game developers are afraid of going into the female protagonist route, because they're afraid guys won't buy it. Do you actually think guys won't buy it? I mean, I'm okay with a female protagonist, but is the world really that sexist?
Sad to say, I think, yeah.
They won't?
Well, it depends. Well, it depends on the kind of guy. I mean, I know you won't because you're a decent guy.
Thank you.
You're not an ass. Whereas, I think it depends on how she is depicted. Okay? I think for most guys, like, even your kind of somewhat sexist guys who accept a female protagonist, I think she needs to be stronger than usual. You know, she can't just be like, oh, a regular girl, you know, just being like, yeah, suddenly she's thrusted into an adventure. You know, you can't have that.
Right.
Yeah, she has to stand out in at least one area. Like, she has to be extra strong, or she has to be extra adept at weapons, or she has to be extra creepy in McAfee's.
In what?
McAfee's?
McAfee's?
No, it's not McAfee's. Alice. What was that?
Oh, you mean American McGee's Alice?
So, what was I thinking of McAfee? That Alice.
Right, the scary Alice.
Scary Alice.
Okay.
In the case of Scary Alice, she has to be extra creepy. And then people will be like, oh wow, she's really interesting.
Right, okay. So actually, that's a good point. If you make a bimbotic or kind of just generally plain girl a protagonist, guys won't buy it. But that's not so much about it being a girl, it's about being boring.
Yeah, honestly.
I suppose, yeah, that's okay, yeah. So maybe the world's not that sexist, they just don't want to be bored. Especially with games.
Yeah, because you don't want to play a game where the girl's always like, oh my god, this shoe is amazing, or something.
Yeah.
You don't want to play a character where her adventures are just through the mall or whatever.
Adventures through the mall.
Yeah, and then she's like, oh my god, this sale is only a day or something.
What would you call this game?
I don't know.
Mall Adventures.
No, I wouldn't call it that.
Which window shopping?
No, stop it. You're horrible at names.
Yeah, I don't know. You come up with it. We should kickstart that.
No.
So, okay, now, going into a little bit more political area. The term gamer girl or girl gamer, right? Some people have said that using the term by itself is already offensive, right?
Okay.
Okay, so they're saying that by using a special term for female gamers, we are ostracizing them, or we're putting them in a small minority group when they're in fact almost half of the gamers out there, but we're kind of like cordoning them off and calling them, oh, these are girl gamers. They're not real gamers.
Oh, piss off.
So, I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. I mean, girl gamer could be viewed as that kind of derogatory term, but it could also, I mean, what do you think? Because I find it can actually be an empowering term as well. So what's you as a female/girl gamer, what do you think about this issue?
Well, okay, that's the thing. Everyone who knows me knows that I kick ass, like literally.
Right.
Okay, so I don't think they would dare to call me that kind of girl gamer. It's like, oh my god, yeah, I'm a girl gamer, marry me. No, everyone knows I'm not that kind of girl gamer. So whenever someone calls me a girl gamer, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I can kick your butt totally.
Right. Okay.
You know?
So you're viewing it from like, yeah, you're a legit girl gamer.
Yeah, because I am one.
Because you are one, yes. But maybe the issue is brought up by those girls who fake being gamers.
I hate those girls.
You know, they pretend to be gamers to attract boys. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's where the problem with using the term girl gamer is coming from. Because it's first of all, it's implying that it's only young people, when generally most gamers are 30 years old. Including females who play games, but also maybe girl gamers makes it like another thing, like to sexualize them, like, oh, this is a girl gamer, which means she is ideal marriage material. You know, this is the girl you want to marry, and this is seen all online all the time. You find a girl who plays GTA and suddenly marry me, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe that's where the problem comes from, but you don't view it like that because you are a legit gamer, so you're like, yeah, I'm a girl gamer, I'll kick your ass.
I don't know why guys actively go out to look for girls who play games. You know?
Well, I suppose it's to share interests.
I know, but at the same time, it's also like, it's kind of despo. And it's like, oh my god, you're a gamer, go marry me. Okay, the thing is, okay, as funny as it sounds, it says here that nearly half of the gamer population are girls, right? But that's the thing, what are you really looking for? Because once you find out that she's not as hot as you'd imagine it to be in your head, you're gonna get turned off and be like, nope, I don't want that. I'm not gonna tap that.
Yeah, I suppose searching for a potential wife material but based on what game she plays it's kind of a bad idea all around. Yeah,
I think, okay, fine. I think I'm getting what you're trying to say here. Okay, people have this generalization where gamer girls are like hot, you know, and they always play games in their underwear. Okay, but we're not like that. Like, I can promise you, probably only a quarter of the girls look as hot as you imagine it to be, and the ones that you see on Tumblr are probably fake as hell. Okay?
Right, yeah.
So, I think, yeah, it's a bit of a problem. I think it shouldn't be, I don't know, I guess it shouldn't be generalized.
Now, moving on. Let's say, okay, from your perspective, from a girl's perspective, right? Let's say you want to get someone, a guy or girl, into gaming. Let's say it's a guy trying to get his girlfriend into gaming, or maybe a girlfriend trying to get her boyfriend into gaming, or just friends trying to get each other into gaming. From your perspective, what would you do?
I first find out what they actually like.
Okay.
You know, games aside.
Games aside.
Games aside. Like, if my boyfriend was a guy who was super into cars, I would totally like, do you want to try Gran Turismo or Need for Speed? You know, because games aren't just what they used to be like 30 years ago, where it's just like Pong, where it's just that, you know, that's all they have. Whereas now there's so many different kinds of games available that you should ask yourself, what does the person actually like? Like, I remember when I was a kid that my cousin had a Barbie game. If your girl is still into Barbie games at this age, great. I'm sure you can still introduce that to her, and, you know, from there she could start gaming for reals. You know, so I guess it depends on what kind of stuff that you like. Like, again, if you are into zombie games, then starting out with a zombie game is great. Okay? Like, for me personally, I like a lot of games which are based on myths. So that's why, and like storytelling and adventures, that's why the games that I play, they need to have a really strong story.
Right.
You know, so, and that was how you got Okami introduced Okami to me.
Yeah, I think the best choice I ever got for you, because I was thinking, okay, you like cute stuff, you like myths, you like animals and you like strong storylines.
Yeah.
And so I saw Okami out there and I was like, this is perfect. And I got it for you and you loved it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a game you've never heard of. You didn't really play anything like it before that, but you loved it.
Yeah, I do. It's one of my favorite games ever.
Because it was just in line with what you are looking for in games.
So you shouldn't try and get someone into gaming by just introducing any game to them. You need to find a game that would suit their needs.
Right.
Like if you are a history buff, then games like Caesar or Civilization would be more of your thing.
Right, yeah.
You know? So yeah, you really need to find games that would actually suit your interests, yeah.
Don't just try force the wrong genre down someone's throat.
Force it, yes, exactly.
It's not going to work. Like you are never going to play Caesar 3.
No.
No.
I mean, I would rather... That's the thing. I actually have an interest in those kind of things, but I would rather read them.
Yeah, you like history, but you like the books.
Yeah, I would rather read it in a book and I'd be like, I learned this shit in books and you learn these things through games.
Right. Okay.
And that's where we differ.
So yeah, so before you buy a game for someone who's not really into gaming, make sure you really get to know them first.
Yes.
Basically, yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and that basically concludes this session of questions about girls and gaming.
Hurrah!
If you have any other questions you'd like to ask, leave a comment down below and we'll get back to you. If response is good enough, we might even make another video. Either way, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye!
New heroes in practice mode. This is a great place to make a custom deck with your favorite card.